right, everyone, here we go. All right, so I don't normally make, internet videos, YouTube videos, reaction videos, all that stuff, but I just feel overly compelled by The Last Jedi to sort of put all my raw feelings out there because this movie has been hanging over me for the past 24 hours and not in a good way. The Last Jedi is not good. Sorry, it's not. And the only way you think differently about that, which I'm fine with other people's opinions, other people having opinions, because I certainly am normally the hipster counterpoint opinion to most things, but with this movie, I'm sorry, but in my experience, based on someone who has been invested in this universe for a long time, and who has also lived through the prequel trilogy, which I was fine with a lot of. I wasn't fine with a lot of things they did there, but I could live with a lot of things because of what it was trying to do, and a lot of things that just sprung out of that as being good. But I'm not okay with the Last Jedi. And a lot of those problems have to do with just, because, there's a lot riding on this movie. There always was. And that's the problem. But we thought it was in good hands because The Force Awakens wasn't earth shattering, but it was pretty good. And I liked it. And Rogue One was, oh my god, that's probably my favorite Star Wars movie ever. Probably ever will be. So I thought like they were going to come out of the gate with, seeing as how, The Force Awakens was basically a new version of A New Hope, and we hoped that The Last Jedi was going to be a new version of The Empire Strikes Back. And maybe if they would have kind of stuck with that formula, they would have made something great, but they did not. So the main problems I have with this movie, there's some great moments, don't get me wrong. The cinematography is on another fucking level. Like, holy shit. Even as a Star Wars fan who's been blessed with some great, like, I played Battlefront 2. Oh my god. Visuals, Star Wars visuals, sound effects. Oh my god. So great. The Force Awakens was great. Rogue One, another level. Like, just as someone who loved the expanded universe and the novels, I thought Rogue One nailed everything that Star Wars should be to me. Even despite the fact that it didn't have Jedi and the Force as, like, the main sort of thrust of what was going on in it. I thought it took, everything that was great about Star Wars universe and put it into a movie. So, still, Rogue One's my favorite. But getting to this, like, oh man, man, that Leia scene. I think you all know what I'm talking about. She, man, Space Wizard Leia. I don't know about that. People shit on Rogue One because there was a slightly awkward CG Leia at the end of it. Okay, I'll give you that. But man, Leia flying through space as just no, just no. I could probably accept it as a story beat because granted, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the expanded universe before. And like Leia eventually did try to learn, like, how to get more in tune with the Force, how to use the Force and stuff like that. But it was a gradual thing. And I think a lot of things that's lost on this is just, it seems like the whole story they're trying to tell with, what they keep flashing back to with, like Luke Skywalker trying to start New Jedi Academy and everything that fell apart during that timeline, whether it was Leia and Han's relationship or how Luke Skywalker ended up where he is now, all these things, like, that would have been the most interesting point to take this series. But I feel like, the obviously time has passed on the actors and everything else. Like, if George Lucas had have tried to tell that story, probably he would have fucked it up. But that would have been the story I think that would have been the most interesting, because I think that's what a lot of us that enjoyed the expanded universe liked, was that, like, they tried to rebuild the Jedi. It was interesting seeing how all these characters, like, adapted and tried to, like, create a new world after Return of the Jedi. And what we're getting now is just like this terrible remnants of the failure of all that. Like, all this, and that's what the whole theme of this movie is, basically from top to bottom in all aspects, is failure. Failure. And but that shouldn't what it that's not what it should be about. Um and man, that Leia scene where she just flies through space, like, so I mean, like I said, you could maybe earn that in the books or after building up to that, but to have Leia from what she was, even though she's force sensitive to that, and maybe they could have shown it differently, and maybe they could have conveyed the same sentiment or action, but there was just too much wrong with that across the board. So as soon as that happened in the movie, I was automatically like, this is not good. Um, and then from there, oh man, so many problems with this. Sorry, but Rose, terrible character. Like, honestly, the worst character since Jar Jar Binks. I know that's being hyperbolic, but fuck it, I don't care. She was terrible. She was maybe the token Asian character. I don't know, because we needed to appeal to the Chinese market. I don't know. I don't want to get into all that, but that's how it could be perceived. Uh, you know, Finn. He was actually kind of cool in the first movie and the Force Awakens, and then they just did nothing with him here. Nothing, and his Force relationship and subplot with Rose, completely worthless. All of it completely pointless. Everything that happened. I mean, when I first heard they were going to a casino planet, I was just like, oh, Lando's maybe gonna show up. It would have been perfect. And they even got Billy D. Williams to voice Lando in the Battlefront 2 campaign, which I know it's not a big deal, but still, I thought like, oh, maybe this is like a tease that he's gonna be in the new movie. Like, everything. Like, honestly, when I saw they were gonna go to that planet and they had the little thing, I'm like, oh, maybe Lando's gonna be wearing that little emblem. No, and they just completely dropped the ball on everything that happened there. It felt like these weird, just out of place, like nothing in that subplot where they went to the casino planet felt earned, felt good. I felt like it added anything meaningful to Star Wars. Um, and I'm usually the last person to say that, like, something should be cut from a movie, because I'm normally like, no, give me more, because in a movie format, more is always more for the most part, because you only get so much. I mean, we watch all these, you know, everyone's invested in TV shows now and video games, which are long form media, books, all that stuff. But man, I mean, not just from the standpoint of like all that stuff could have been cut from the movie, like the Casino Planet, none of that I gave a shit about. Like, I honestly hated it. And then on top of that, you go back and later on, then it's like, oh well, Laura Dern's character, which I love her, and I was happy to see her in the movie, but like, this whole thing could have been that whole subplot with Poe and the mutiny and all that could have been avoided if she'd have just told them up front, like, you don't have to do all this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the plan. And so all that stuff was just rushed and stupid and boring. Okay, and then we get to so many other things that are wrong with this movie. Oh man, like, the biggest travesty of this entire movie to me, Luke Skywalker ruined his character forever. Um, I'm just gonna say that because that's the truth of it. So, I mean, the fact that they tried to show him as like, oh, he kind of wanted for a second to kill Kylo. Maybe he would have. Of course, he would have had that thought. Like, of course, he would have. Anyone would have had that thought. Like, you've seen the most evil possible with the Skywalker bloodline, and obviously, if you saw that in Kylo, you would be cautious. But and of course, he would think like, oh yeah, well, I could end this now. But like, Luke spent so much time trying to redeem his father. He gave up everything to redeem Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, from the dark side, and him entertaining the idea of killing Kylo. Like, sure, anyone would think that, but like for him to like almost follow through with it to the point where he was just like sitting over his body and be like, "What am I doing?" Like, no, no, and then like, okay, so Mark Hamill was like amazing in this movie, no questions asked. Like, he did a phenomenal job, but Luke Skywalker's character was just all over the place. And then, I mean, the whole end sequence, which was somewhat cool, but somewhat not. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, he he sat back, and I mean, they had there was this whole plot in the first movie where they had this complex map they were trying to find. We got to find Luke Skywalker. We got to find him, and they go to find him, and like, oh, he doesn't want to be found. He doesn't want to get involved. It's like, well, okay, well, maybe he came to that conclusion after everything he sort of realized over time. But it's just like, when I was just kind of sulking, and he should have been more like, if he's the one that turned, created Kylo Ren as we know him. Like, it wasn't necessarily Snoke that turned him to the dark side. It was Luke that like almost killed him, and then Kylo being like, why would you try to kill me? And then him turning, like, that's just bad. But also, if you're gonna deal with those ramifications as Luke, why wouldn't you just like try to right the wrongs you made? Like, you're not just gonna be some hermit, And then they try to create these parallels with Yoda, and the Empire Strikes Back and all that, with Rey going to, to the island to meet him, and that, like, I think most of us knew that was kind of where they were going with that feel, with her seeking him out and her finding him at the end, but they did not pay any of that off in any way. I mean, for one, we had the stupid fucking porgs, which fuck all those things. I hated them as soon as I saw them in the trailer months ago. And even while I hoped they would not be a significant story beat in this movie, the fact that they were so insignificant just shined a light on the fact that they were just there to just be like, here's some cute Star Wars creature we can sell toys with, and we can have little porks, and everyone be like, oh, the pork's so cute. Like, fuck that shit. Fuck it. Fuck the porgs. And I called it like last week. I was like, guaranteed there's a fucking scene in this movie where there's some serious fucking spaceship combat going on, and there's a goddamn porg flopping around in the Millennium Falcon cockpit. What do we see? The movie. Fuck that shit. Fuck it. All right. Beside the point. So Rey shows up. First thing she does, and now this is another big problem I have with the movie. And this is a problem with it. This just seems like this is just how movies are made now, and with Marvel and all sort of shit. We need a comedy beat every few seconds. So as soon as Rey hands a lightsaber, should have been a fucking really big moment. What does he do? Throw it over his shoulder. Like, okay. Like, that lightsaber was one of the most significant pieces of lore, like everything that has happened with this lightsaber through the storyline now, and you just throw it over your shoulder. Okay, Are we going the sort of cartoonish, silly route with Yoda, where Luke's going to be Yoda now? Okay, um, I can see them playing with that a little bit, but it just does not work here. And so automatically, you just destroy the feeling that we all had when we finally see after the Force Awakens, where Rey hands Luke that fucking lightsaber. The emotional impact of the way that movie ended, and even though it went on too long, where they spun out, the camera, and then it's just like, and he's just like, fuck it. It's like, oh my god, and then it just him going over and fucking milking some titties and drinking the milk and all this other shit with the pores and everything else. It's like, this is supposed to be some Jedi, like, home planet where, like, some serious shit that's impacted the universe forever. And all we have is this, like, nonsense going on here. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But no, it's not. And it just, every step of the way Luke is acting toward her, even the scene where it's just like, he's like, all right, reach out with the Force. All right, tell me, do you feel anything? And then he's just rubbing the leaf. Like, okay, in a trolly, like, silly way, that's funny. But, like, this is serious. This is a serious movie. This is, like, a serious point of the main Star Wars storyline. And you're trying to fuck off with it all the time. Stop. Like, constantly just trying to get these little gags in. Stop. Stop it. Oh my god. And just, man, like, so many things that should have been the most impactful, revelatory, lore building part of the Jedi and the Force and everything that happens in this movie does not happen. And now I can appreciate certain aspects of that, like where, I mean, I predicted that they were going to the gray side of the Force with this movie, which they sort of are in a weird way, but it's just like, well, the Force, like, fuck the Sith, fuck the Jedi, all that stuff. Those ideologies don't matter. Like, I can appreciate that in a certain sense. Like, I really do. Like, I'm not opposed to that. Like I said, I was like, this is where we're going. Fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith. But also, like they're just like, fuck this in a way that I don't agree with. Okay. Like, they don't really pay that off. All right, so then we get into so many other things. Like, I mean, I hate the fact that this movie basically is like one ship chasing another ship. And given the fact that this is sci-fi, we can't figure out any other, like, the First Order can't figure out any way to stop that one ship, and that is just like, what the fuck to me. Like, I just hate that's. But meanwhile, Finn and Rose can sneak off and do their own thing on a secret planet. They can come back. All this other stuff's like, it's so bad. And then, and then we start getting into the end of the movie and everything that happens there. I mean, so to me, the best part of the movie was the scene, even though it doesn't really pay off in a great way, is, I kind of liked, in a way, even though it didn't make sense at first, and they explain it later on with Snoke, like, melding, Rey and and Kylo and their characters and how they can communicate with each other. I mean, a lot of the weird Force stuff in this movie, some casual fans are gonna be like, "Well, this is just silliness," but a lot of it, some of it happened in the books before, and it's a sci-fi movie. You can expend your, you can extend your, what you believe and all that stuff. But a lot of the stuff was kind of cool at front, but then, like, man, like, once Rey finally got up with Kylo, I was like, oh man, this is about to be some cool stuff. And it was just like not how you thought they were gonna go with it. But then when they got there, and Snoke was like the most significant part of, I think, the most significant part to all this because there's been a lot of criticisms about what Snoke means, post this movie coming out, where it's just like, well, the Emperor, we didn't know anything about the Emperor before. It's like, no, we live in a different time now. Star Wars has a whole lore, there's a whole universe created around it. At the time, he didn't really mean that much, of course. He just seemed like the big bad evil because that was cool. But for Snoke to be this like element to the Sith, to the dark side, that just was even more secretive and evil than the Emperor, and the fact that he is not explained at all and is just killed in this movie, fuck that. Fuck that. Seriously. Fuck that. Worst thing about this movie. You just completely destroyed what should have been one of the greatest questions most of us had. He should have been Plagueis, but if you didn't want to put that neat of a bow on it, Disney, and you wanted to, create your own reason why he's here, well, maybe he's just this weird ancient Sith being, and so maybe we can get some knowledge into the ancient part of the Sith. And, that's what sucks is like, I thought maybe we were going to get some, like, at least some hints at the deep Jedi, like the old, even before, like Old Republic, and maybe even before that, Jedi and Sith lore about why the Sith ultimately exist, why the Jedi ultimately exist, why there's this constant yin yang of, dark side, light side. No, none of that fucking matters. Apparently, and if they tell it in the books and in the comics or in the video games or whatever from here on out, I don't fucking care, because that should have been up front now in the movies. Snoke, he was supposed to be the most powerful Sith dark side user ever. I mean, he was like showing his power clearly, even in the limited amount he was in this movie and The Force Awakens. And then I don't know, just Kylo Ren can like flick a lightsaber and kill him, and that's it. And we don't need any explanation of who he was, where he came from, what his motivations were, how he even came in control of the First Order, which is basically just the remnants of the Empire. I guess that doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't fucking matter. Like, fuck all that. Which, after that happened, I was kind of checked out a little bit more, and then, but man, that fucking scene with them, with Rey and Kylo fighting it wasn't the Crimson Guard, but those people. Oh my, that scene. Oh man, was really good. Like that was the first time watching that movie where I was really into it. Where I was like, man, this is what you watch Star Wars for right here. Like that scene was really good. And then, man, like they just shit on it right after that. Just right after it. So, going along with the whole Snoke thing, who are the Knights of Ren? They showed them in the first movie, these people that Kylo had that apparently he was in cahoots with to take down the old Jedi Academy that Luke was building, that started this whole series of events that's happened to this trilogy now. That's important shit. So are they going to pop up? Like, it would have been cool if they were the 12 people maybe around that him and Rey fought in that scene. But they're probably not. And, clearly, like I said, Disney doesn't care. No one cares about the meaning of any of this, because and here's the ultimate problem with all this is that, like, I know I sound like a fucking complete outraged nerd right now, and that's fine. I don't give a shit. But it's just like, I don't care what you do with comic books. I don't care what you do with the books, because that's just minor shit. I don't care what you do with the video games. Minor shit. This is the fucking third act in a 3 trilogy Star Wars movie. You took this over. You bought this from George Lucas so you can make some good shit. And you have to treat every movie in the series with the utmost, Like this is where you build all the canon out of, is these movies. Every single frame of every single thing that happens in these movies affects Star Wars forever. Forever. Unless someone bigger than Disney comes along in the future and buys it out and says, "Oh, fuck all this, well, it doesn't matter." This is real deal shit, and you don't fuck with it, and you have to make it perfect, and they did not do that. They didn't fucking do that here. All right, so we get into. I mean, like I said, there's so many plot holes in all of this. Like I had a game plan for this whole video, and it's just gone off rails because I just can't. It's so much. There's so much bad. But the final act, it was. I mean, first off, they should have killed Leia in that first scene when she got ejected from the ship into space. Easy. Done. But I guess that was just like, oh, that was the easy way out. We don't want to do that. Because I can appreciate them wanting to, do something bold with this trilogy, wanting to do something bold with Star Wars. Well, that doesn't really work out if you don't really think it through. And man, it's like leaving this movie off with Leia alive on the ship with it's a very small remaining quote unquote rebellion. Like, I mean, you're just gonna kill her off in some fucking lame way in the next movie. So who fucking cares? Like, you had plenty of opportunities to kill her in this movie, plenty of ways that would have been maybe not ideal, but acceptable, and you just didn't do it. So instead, we have this whole scene where Luke force projects himself, and he comes to meet with Leia because, of course, we needed that. And it's just like, okay, that was a good little moment, and I don't really understand what was happening until he went out and Kylo, said, "Fire all your lasers on him." And Luke was still, I mean, you knew he was still going to be alive. He wasn't going to die that way. But you didn't really realize that he was just force projecting himself from across the galaxy. And, like, in a way, that's kind of like it's kind of like a neat thing that they did with it. But it's just like, that's canon now. Like, this, the way you just, it's just like I don't know. As soon as he didn't pull out the green lightsaber, you were like, like, wait, what's going on here? Because, obviously, he should have pulled out the green lightsaber. And then, man, like, okay, so getting back to the whole, like, comedy thing, him brushing off his shoulder, it's just like, man, you just wrote that in for gags. It's just a thing, like, with BB-8 in this whole movie. Like, he had a fucking body count, like, astronomical body count. He's just like, hey, he's just driving an ATST. Oh, he's a silly guy. Oh, he banged his head against the fucking circuit board to make it work. Oh, he's shooting coins at himself, blowing his gun off like he's fucking James Bond. Like, fuck that shit. Why is that shit in here? Like, you're just doing it to get this fucking initial critic nerd comic book reaction out of the audience, and people going on and say, "Oh, it's funny how he did that." Like, it's fucking stupid. Like, you just undermine everything in this movie with this stupid fucking comedic bullshit. And I know you're gonna say Star Wars always has this stuff. Yes, but I thought we got away from that. Like, good lord, Revenge of the Sith, where fucking R2-D2 is shooting out oil and flaming the fucking robots, and it's just like, God, oh my God, why? and then we have it again here. I thought we were done with that shit. Oh, it's fucking horrendous. It's so bad. Oh my god, I'm sorry I'm all over the place, but Jesus, like this. So, so we're left at the end here, and I mean, Luke basically comes off like a bitch in this movie. Like, they tried to redeem him at the end, and they almost did it. They almost did it. But I mean, this is not the right moment to kill Luke. This was the right moment to kill Leia. And Luke needed to stay around to the end. I'm sorry, but he just did. Like, Rey didn't learn anything. She didn't learn shit from Luke. She doesn't know anything. And, you know, I guess one of the biggest travesties of this whole movie was that, like, and they built it up to this is like Rey's parents. Like, no, her parents were nobody. They don't mean anything. Sorry, we fucking jerked your dick off for, you know, a couple years about that. No, like, okay, it's fine that, like, her parents were nobody. Like, I'm actually okay with that. Like, I appreciate the whole storyline of, like, she came from nothing. She's nobody, and she's great. That's fine. That's cool. But you didn't build it up to be that. Like, you fucked us all with that. The same way you fucked us with Snoke and making us think that he was going to be some fucking main thing. And, like, you just... This movie had too many questions. This movie had so many questions going into it. And they were great questions. And it was like, holy shit, they were just fucking destroying with this. And then they just... The answers to those questions were garbage. And I'm left being like, I don't fucking care about episode 9. Don't care about this universe. Please step the fuck away from the Skywalker storyline. Don't care about any of that anymore. Like, honestly, give me some one-off movies. Give me some, like, something that's so far away from this Skywalker storyline at this point that it doesn't even matter. Because, I mean, that's why Rogue One was great. That's why Rogue One, to me, is the best Star Wars movie. It embraces what is great about Star Wars, which is not this reliance on the Skywalker and the Jedi, which I love that stuff. It's my favorite part about Star Wars. But, my God, man, like, you know, and there's themes in this movie, like, that I appreciate, which, you know, like Kylo was trying to do, it's like, he wasn't even, he wasn't necessarily trying to be like, you know, trying to turn Rey to the dark side with him, where it's just like, come with me to the dark side. He's just like, no, fuck all this shit. Like, fuck this, fuck the Empire, fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith, fuck all this. Like, just come with me and let's just, like,